Hello, 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 and welcome back to another episode of the Laugh at Pat podcast, hashtag Patchats. Today's guest is Karl Pinzon Bustillo. I only practiced saying that like 7 times before I started recording it because that's one of the cornerstones of the Laugh at Pat podcast, hashtag Patchats franchise, is mispronunciation of my guests' names. So Karl is originally from Colombia, and I met him in the comedy scene here in Berlin. He was really funny and just seemed like an interesting guy. And after the show, we got to hang out a little bit and shoot the shit. And yeah, I don't know. I just thought he seemed like a really interesting guy. And at the time, I was with my girlfriend and my friend, and we had to leave. And in that moment, I was like, "Oh man, like I want to talk to this guy for like an hour more than the 10 minutes that I just got." And so when I decided I wanted to, start doing more of these podcasts, these conversation podcasts, not the solo hashtag Patchats, I reached out to Karl and asked him if he would be willing to come over and have a conversation. And so that's what we did. And it was really fun. We talked, about his life growing up in Colombia, how he got into the movie industry. We talked about depression. We talked about psychedelics. We talked about comedy and creativity, creative process. We bounced around a whole bunch of different subjects. I tried to follow some through line, but he just kept saying too many interesting things, and I had too many questions. So yeah, we did jump around a bit, but it was a really fun conversation, really interesting, and I think Karl is a really interesting, cool dude, and so I was really excited to get to sit down and talk with him, and I hope you guys are going to enjoy this conversation as much as I did. If you want a little bit more of Karl in your life, you can follow him on Instagram at Karlmedy, like comedy, but with Karl, and the link to his Instagram profile is in the description below, so go check that out and give him a follow. And right now, sit back, relax, and enjoy my conversation with the funny and interesting Karl. Enjoy. Okay, so to start, could you maybe just introduce yourself? We met once at a open mic here in Berlin.
That's true.
I thought you were really funny and also seemed like a cool dude. And
I thought you were really funny too. It was like
oh, stop it.
Yeah. It was like a hairier version of Zach Galifianakis on stage. So
I would have preferred a skinnier version of Zach Galifianakis.
No, Zach Galifianakis is a skinnier version of Zach Galifianakis right now. So, you're like a hairier version.
Okay, I'll take it.
Look at that. I don't know if queer, because I think that Zach represents queerness very well. I mean, it's a person very comfortable in their body, and that's hot.
Yeah.
But we met at this open mic. We both did sets there. My name is Karl Pinzon Bustillo. Just call me Karl. My pronouns are we get it, you're different. Shit, I'm doing my material in your podcast.
Well,
that's how thirsty I am.
That works.
Yeah, no, my pronouns are they, which means they, them, which means that, yes, I am annoying. And I am going to talk about my non-binary, non-monogamous partner as well. Yeah, and I'm about to become a parent. That's something that I like to start with foremost. And apart from that, I do movies. either in the camera department or the visual effects department. And comedy when it was possible, but right now it's not. So yeah, I have these things, this podcast, or
it's sad, and I do have to say, like, with doing these like video things, at first it was like, oh, this is great that I have this to do in the kind of the downtime, but I miss the immediacy of, like, you get an idea for a thing and you can go and see in front of an audience and you get like a reaction, even if it's 4 people. That's so much more fulfilling than just screaming into the chasm of the internet.
That's why I do all my screaming at the Autobahn. That's why I go there and I just like let it out. And I get a reaction because people look at me like, huh? And when an audience does that, like on stage, like on stand-up comedy, I love it as well. When people, instead of just like not laughing, they go like, what? That's a reaction for me as well. I mean, the harshest reaction that I get doing stand-up is silence, which is like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
That's that cuts deep.
Yeah. Well, you said something interesting to me the first time that we met, actually, that you enjoyed going into some of the rooms that were like maybe not so
popular.
And like willing to up for laughing, that you really, maybe that you enjoy the winning over and the harshness of a colder room.
So the first that wasn't the first time, that was like the second or third time, but it was a room that I went to visit before doing comedy, and it was the back of a bar in a hostel. The show was at 8. So the first half will start okay. They could do like crowd work. But the second half was just a bunch of students ordering over each other on the bar while you were trying to say your dick jokes on the stage. So it was a horrible show. I was on second half. I was telling my horrible jokes as well for a horrible show, and silence. And the only laughter was coming from the comedian side, because only comedians are assholes enough to see when somebody's struggling and just going like, ha ha.
Yeah, not laughing at the material, but
no, the whole thing is. And then if I, like, my position on that was like, well, at least the comedian is laughing, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole thing, right? You have to make people laugh. I don't believe that, but that's what they tell you. They tell you, like, you just have to make them laugh. Like, that's the currency of comedy, laughter. I don't know. Sometimes I was like, what? When people just, like, react some way. And if you can make them cry and then make them laugh, that's good too. But I think I lack the finesse to make them cry. I think that up until now, and with this long, prolonged pause, it's going to be a matter of a time.
Yeah.
Until you can get audiences again, like in the pocket.
Yeah. Well, so normally I usually try to talk about comedy more at the end. So I wanted to start. Can you tell me a little bit about, like, where you grew up? Did you grow up in a city? Yeah. Did you grow up in a town? What was your childhood like?
I'm from Colombia.
Okay.
From a Caribbean town called Barranquilla. Shakira is from there.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Is that like a hot thing in the city, or is it more that they kind of look down on Shakira because they're like, you're not such hot shit?
No, my town is a big Miami wannabe kind of town in Colombia.
Okay.
Where you can perceive that you live in a third world country, but there's 44 buildings or floor buildings or something like that, or I don't know, like 50 stories was the last thing. I don't know, I lost count. with like green windows and stuff, like trying to be like that. Like they brought palms to the street. So it's very Americanized.
And is it on the beach or?
It is.
Okay.
It's on the
coast.
So
it's a city though. Like if it has 40 or 50 buildings that are, I mean.
Yeah. It's a city. It's a city. Same way. Pittsburgh or something like that.
Shade thrown at Pittsburgh. Shade thrown.
Shots fired, motherfuckers. Hit me back. I got nothing against Pittsburgh. I've never been there. But the reputation that Pittsburgh has.
Yeah. I've never been there either, but I'm comfortable to say that it's shit.
I don't know.
but so what was it like growing up there?
But it was very rural. Like growing up there was a lot of like expeditions into the wild. Like
okay.
We used to live like in a housing complex. Imagine the beginning of Ciudad de Dios or something like that, City of God.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So like something like that being built on the outskirts of that town of Barranquilla. And I think that my mom's game was just to see how fast she could like dig a tunnel between that poverty we were brought up or that we were born into, both of us, into like something more middle class or comfortable. So I did grow up like changing stages.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and do you remember?
Do you remember in the same town? Like,
in the but do you remember like, like at a certain point that you started going to the school that was like a little bit of a nicer school or something?
Oh yeah, I got thrown out of that school.
Do tell.
Oh yeah, I was a genius. I was such a genius that I concocted this like, I don't know, what was it? Was it a prank? Kind of. It was vandalism, but I just came up with the idea. Somebody else executed it, and I got called out for coming up with a plan.
For being the mastermind of sorts?
I was like the cerebral behind that operation. I was Dr. X.
Yeah.
And I went down in fourth grade, of all things. So that was like the priest high school. Like it was not like a high school. It was like a prep school because they will do the whole elementary, secondary, and then the 2 years where they prep you to university. It was all Catholic, so it was full of priests. So lucky me that I got out, I guess. I wasn't touched unless I'm like hiding something in my head. But
which I have to say, it would be riveting content if you could,
just
bring
dredge
that out now.
Just like, oh my God, like make that breakthrough right on your Olympus
If I could get that
camera.
exclusive, that would be huge.
Oh,
no. But so... sorry, go ahead.
So that was the end of my like Catholic, because Catholic school in my hometown was the thing to do. Like, were you raised Catholic as well? Yeah, I was baptized and all that shit. I shouldn't be saying that on camera because when they asked me here in Germany if I professed a religion, my answer was no.
Yeah, but when they baptized you, aren't you a baby? Like, it's not like it was your choice.
Correct.
I feel like at this point when you're coming over, that's the choice. You're like, no, I'm...
Religion became important in my life years later when my mom became like a Pentecostal Christian. Okay. She still is. She's like...
What's the difference between Catholic and this?
It's more singing at the Pentecostal church.
So it's a funner church, basically.
I mean, when my mom converted to Christianism, she was living in Aruba, and I was there on holidays, usually like from May until late August, and then in early December until like late January. My mom was there working because, long story, I mean, I don't think we have enough time for that.
Yeah. Okay.
So she converted in one of these Christian Caribbean churches, and those are some of my like fondest memories. That's where I learned English in Aruba.
Oh, so you also went to Aruba. This wasn't after you guys left Colombia at some point during your childhood.
My mom left Colombia. I didn't. I stayed because of school.
Okay.
So she would go there, work, and I would go there and visit.
Like in summers or okay.
And the holidays.
And holidays.
Yeah.
So then, who were you staying with when she left? And how old were you?
Just a lady.
Just a lady?
Just a lady.
Like
a friend of my mom.
Friend? Oh, okay.
A friend of my mom.
Just like any lady?
Just like a lady. Yeah, my mom just found a lady and we're like, you're staying here. Oh, that was some shaping moments of my life, living alone.
Mm-hmm. How old were you?
That was between 13 and 15.
Okay. Yeah, those are important years too.
I mean, it's formative. When did my mom come back? On 95, she came back fully because I had enough of the shit. Like she living somewhere else, so I started being a little vandal in school.
Okay. Yeah, so that was like one of the other questions I always like to ask people is like, one, like within the city, was it the type of place when you were young that you could just like go out for the day and like show up for dinner, or did you have to stay? Yeah, it was.
Fuck yeah. My town was excellent. I was just talking about this with my partner that if my town wasn't such a political shithole, I'd love for my child to experience what I experienced growing up. Like, well, not all of it, because I was also sexually abused when I was a child. But
oh man, I'm sorry to hear that.
No, don't worry about it. I'm a survivor. I advocate for like believing children and building safe spaces within your own like place instead of just being like the whole time blogging about it. And I won't deny my child those times as well, like sunny days. Like if you can count on something, was that there were sunny days, and parents would always leave their children just like hang around, play. We started getting handsy with each other as children, discovering ourselves like early on with 10 or 11 or something like that. And it was just like games in the neighborhood and stuff. They never went really anywhere. Well, with like boys with boys.
Yeah.
We get like, just like regular shit. It was just so idyllic and beautiful. Maybe I'm just idolizing it. I had fun until I couldn't have any more fun in my hometown. I think I was just talking to a few friends about this, that nobody feels comfortable in their hometown. Or people who get out of their hometowns.
I think it's one of the interesting things about living here in a place that's so international is you meet people from places that you would think of as like, oh, so nice, and then they're like, I hated that, like, and I mean, I'm kind of the same way in my own hometown. I mean, I'm from a beautiful area of Northern California that's idyllic in many ways, but I don't know, there's some also emotional baggage tied to that place. Yeah. But so what do you mean you had fun until you couldn't have fun anymore?
I mean, I did so much in that town that at some point somebody threw rocks at my mom's house.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because I was living there at the time.
Yeah.
So I wasn't 18 or 16 like most people here, and that's one of the disadvantages I feel about living in a Caribbean paradise, because there's no seasons. Mm-hmm. There's only like rain season and
sunny,
hot as fuck.
Yeah.
The rest of the time. And what you understand is that when it's hot as fuck, you don't want to do anything at noon because it's like equatorial sun. It's like directly on top of you, and it's burning.
Humid too, or
super humid?
Yeah,
super humid. It's like get out of the shower and sweat kind of humid. And my thing was, where was I? I'm sorry, I fucking lost it.
You were talking about like basically it was fun until it wasn't fun.
Oh yeah, somebody just like, it was idyllic, so I had like a bit of a Peter Pan complex.
Mm-hmm.
And when somebody came over and just like broke the windows of my mom's house, which incidentally was also her church. That's a lot. That's a lot of it to a bag.
Yeah.
No, man, I mean, how much time do you have? You have to cut me at some point. So yeah, somebody came, threw a rock, and my mom was like, "That's it, man. You can't be here anymore."
So she kind of like kicked you out of the house at that point?
It was beautiful that she kicked me out of the house.
Yeah, I mean, the kicked out is like maybe a bit more, had a conversation that maybe it was a good idea that you weren't living.
It was my call to action, like the hero's call to action, like typically Joseph Campbell.
Yeah.
Mine was a kick in the ass, just like, get the fuck out.
Time to wander into the forest.
And I have to make it hard on myself. That's another thing that I've been finding out. I'm 40 years old, by the way. I forgot to say that. And one thing that I came to recently, of all things, is that I experience drama. It's because I love me some drama.
Okay,
you know what I mean? I love it. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it. Like, if it's not like, oh shit, you have to send the paperwork again, and you have to correct this scene, and you have to, I wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
You know, so now what I'm just doing is like, great, I'm getting what I want. So I don't want this anymore. I want to do it like happily. And it's like, oh yeah, you want to do it happily? So it never changes. It's the same thing. It's me who has changed now, the way that I approach, like, my partner had a big thing with the pregnancy. Like at some point they were having contractions.
Mm-hmm.
Not regular contractions, but just like, oh, there's a name. I have an app. I have a phone. I don't have my phone here with me.
But yeah, okay.
Hickenbriggs contractions.
Okay, but like, or
I'm probably butchering
it was
that.
supposed to be the time.
Yeah, but it was scary. So they had to go to the hospital during COVID times. That meant no visitors, no nothing.
Oh shit.
So, that happened just after I was just talking to my mom, and she was telling me, "Oh, you had drama because you love drama." And I was like, "Yeah, that's probably true." So this happens, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" So okay, so first test. How do you react to this? And it took everything in my body to stay just like upright or just to move. Mm-hmm. And I couldn't. I had just to like crawl into a ball, wait for any messages on the phone, get high a lot. And at some point in those 2 weeks when Maria was in the hospital, just realizing like, oh, I can't keep going on in life like this. Like I'm feeding out of this fucking dark energy that's like keeping me down. And I'm not going to tell you that it doesn't happen anymore, because it comes back, especially in this time of pandemia.
Yeah.
But it's gotten to a point where I go like, well, I got that, but at the same time I have this and this and this and this happen on the other side.
But that's it's an interesting thing, because like, I don't know, I've had my own kind of, I mean, I don't know, not to like label your thing this, but like for me, like issues with depression and whatnot. And that's one of the things that stresses me out about the idea of being a parent, is that like sometimes something will happen, like sometimes minor, sometimes bigger, and like it's like get kind of like immobilized and I'm not super effective.
Yeah.
And it freaks me out to be like, well, if I'm a parent, like I have to be effective. Like the kid has to eat and go to school,
Well,
and like I can't
for
just spend 9 hours in bed watching Rick and Morty or some shit.
Thank you for creeping me out. Right?
I'm not trying to put that on you, but I don't know. I just like I'm always curious to.
But see, that's the message. That's the message that I get from everybody, and that's the internal battle that I have right now. Because the message is your life is gonna change, and it's gonna be shit. So like your life is gonna change. You're not gonna sleep. You're not gonna like. I'm already doing that on my own. You mean to tell me that I'm gonna have something to do while I'm not sleeping or something like that, or while I'm like tossing and turning around? Fine, because right now I'm bored, and that's what's happening. Look, I've been in this situation before. I've been like in my house on my pajamas, pretending like I'm writing the fifth screenplay or doing whatever with my own ideas, just waiting for somebody to call me on a fucking pitch or whatever. I don't know. It might happen, but it's just a way for me to entertain myself, just to tell stories and stuff like that. But at the same time, there's so much that I can go back to that stage when I was depressed. And now, like, the message has been, well, what if you still feel like you are healing from that? What if...
From this incident when your partner was in the hospital? Or
No.
Or just from general, like, the...
After my divorce, I suffer a deep depression.
Mm-hmm.
Like I went through, what is it called? Yeah, it's a morning depression. Isn't it? Yeah. I didn't take any
antidepressants,
pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
No, I don't. But I did go to the doctor, and I upped my therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And I started to work on my nutrition, just like to build better flora in my gut.
Totally.
That was just like a whole process to come out of that. And what took me out of it was just like going to work, because I had to work as an immigrant. And I was a pizza delivery person, and I used to like cry in front of people. Like I was. The other part is that.
How do people react to that?
It's beautiful. You get so many good tips with that. Like guilt is amazing. So I was here in Germany. I'm breaking time.
We're kind of like jumping around, but why don't you? If you don't mind, like let's finish talking about this, and then we can go back to the hero's journey a little bit.
Yeah.
You leaving Colombia, you coming to Germany, but I feel like we're talking about this. So you went through this divorce.
You're
in this depressive phase, and
my idea was like, well, here's the other thing that they don't talk about that much, and I heard this from my then wife. She told me like, I have news for you. I have depression, and I just learned that depression is transmittable. So I didn't know that.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And she tells me this, and I'm like, what do you mean depression is transmittable? And it's like, yeah, I went to the doctor. The doctor told me that I had depression. They wanted to medicate me. I say yes, but like for a short period. Then I'm going to try to do mindfulness and this and this. Fine. Whatever you want to do. And I've been in AA, so I've been like in group therapy. I've been in rehab. So I know this whole culture.
Yeah.
And the only thing that worked for me was Gestalt therapy. And I could just access that.
What is Gestalt therapy?
So it's a way of telling you, like, what the therapist does is that they let you tell a story of something that is bothering your mind, and the therapist retells you your own story afterwards with a different perspective.
Oh, that sounds really interesting.
And Angel was like, first of all, it was not paid therapy. It was free therapy. It was like church therapy. Second, it was in my mother language, in Spanish. And third, it was like Angel was just like experimenting on me because he was doing pro bono work with me. So it was in his best interest to get me the right set of tools to function as an adult. Like what he was doing was kind of like helping someone make the transition from childhood, like that's how emotionally stuck I was, to adulthood. I don't mean to say that I'm an adult emotionally, but I'm on a good route. I'm on route. So I decided not to take medication, and I decided to take extra therapy, just to go like 3 times a week therapy. We did like healing screaming, like healing hitting, like work on my rage. And then at some point I went back to Colombia. And before I went back to Colombia, because I had read something about mushrooms and I love drugs, I went to Amsterdam and I did like a high dose of, I don't know what they were called, but they were like...
It's the psilocybin, but it's like under the ground somehow before the mushroom fruits.
It's a truffle.
Yeah.
And it was just like the highest kind of psilocybin.
Yeah.
So it was very visual and this and that.
Had you done mushrooms before that?
I had, but not like that. Not during a depressive moment. And that brought me out a little bit of it.
Yeah. And was it kind of more that particular mushroom experience kind of more in the vein of like somehow ceremonial, or
before
not necessarily doing it like at a concert with friends, more like I'm gonna be in here and just think these thoughts come to me. And
I had some psychedelic experience prior to that. What was my first psychedelic experience? So ayahuasca.
Oh wow, that's an intense first psychedelic experience.
That was cool. That was really cool. Like like everything made sense. Like I was like, all right, yeah, this is happening because this is happening. And psychedelics came to my life in a moment when I had just like seen The Matrix, and I had started just to get into philosophy because of The Matrix. I started reading a lot. I have this relationship with reading. I fall in love with it at some point, and then I just leave it to the side. Like when I was very very small, very like a young child, like 7 or 8, I used to read a lot. Then I stopped reading and started watching a lot of movies. Then I went back to reading. Then I went back to movies. Now I don't read that much. Like fantasy is where it's at for me right now. Like the last thing that I read was a little bit of a Song of Ice and Fire. But mainly I just have like 4 books that I read all the time. The Hitchhiker Guides to the Galaxy.
I haven't read that one since I was a kid, but I remember loving it. But so I want to ask you a question about the drug thing, because from my own experience also, like when I went through my worst depression, I was like, that was like my early 20s, like 21, 22, 23.
But was it like a major episode? Like you couldn't move?
Yeah, I was suicidal and like I had it was really tough. I also didn't take medication, and like, yeah, I did a lot of therapy, kind of spiritual seeking, also like exercise, diet, sleep, I mean,
Yeah.
see, I just actually was writing a bit that I want to see if I can take somewhere the other day, where I was like, do you ever feel like you're slipping into a oppressive depression? Then you realize you just need to take a shower.
Well, funny that you say. That's how I feel. That's what I'm talking about right now. It's just like, yeah, I've lived through this, and I really didn't want to live through it again. But now that I'm living through it again, it feels like, oh no.
Yeah.
No, this is not how I want to live. This is really not how I want to live. And I'm slipping back into old habits, and it's driving me like, I've been to the physiotherapist because I have this pain on my lower back, and people my age or older tell me like, oh, that's normal.
Yeah.
That's it. You're just gonna start experiencing these things. Now back to different. I just went to the physiotherapist, and he just massaged the shit out of me, and he told me like, all right, you have 2 blockades, and it's probably because your right leg is 2 centimeters shorter than your left leg. I was like, all right, so, and the second thing that he told me was like, how could you like endure this pain that you must be suffering? Like, pain?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? It's normal, right? It's like, no. How long have you been like I don't know, 2 years? Since like, I mean, since you were born, do you wear insoles or something like that? Like, no, you need insoles. And it's like,
Yeah.
oh, so I'm a 40-year-old non-binary, non-monogamous hipster who needs to wear insoles in their shoes now. It's just gonna be that kind of life.
Yeah, but also, wouldn't you rather be a 40-year-old non-binary, non-monogamous hipster with no back pain?
That would be great. But
so sorry. But
it's a privilege. It's the privilege of having health insurance. I'm not gonna. I accept it. I have a privilege. I'm not complaining about my privilege. But fuck, I'm 40 and I've been in Germany for 10 years, and I just allowed myself to do that. Like,
yeah.
Before that, I always thought of myself as a third-class citizen or something like that. You know, at the beginning more than ever. But
so what I was gonna say was like, so when I was like depressed, that was the first time I ever tried drugs, and actually it was kind of linked to the two, because
psychedelic drugs, or
the first drug I ever tried was MDMA, but before that I was like kind of anti-drug. I was scared, but that was really the reason I tried it. Was I was in such a low place. I was like, well, I don't give a shit. Like, I was always scared about my brain, and that first time I took MDMA, what was beautiful about that for me was it wasn't like the next day, oh, I'm like not depressed anymore. But that night, it was like I remembered what being happy felt like. And then it was like a light at the end of the tunnel of like, oh, this is what I need to be working towards, because I had gotten so like lost down in it. But so my question that I wanted to ask you, because psychedelics or drugs, kind of played a role in, helping you, do you ever, because this is something I struggle with, is like, where that balance is between, they're also fun and something that you can enjoy.
I'm glad that you're asking
what's the equilibrium with that?
I'm glad that you're asking this question. Always with the hard-hitting questions.
That's what you can expect here on the Laugh at Pat podcast. Nothing but hard-hitting.
It's been on drugs. I don't know if I dreamt this or I read it or I saw it in a comment section or what. It's knowledge, and it's something that happened, and it's something that is imprinted in me so much that I'm gonna like say it right back into this microphone. I forgot what I was gonna say. That's
this
the drugs.
Brought to you by drugs.
That's the drugs. That's drugs. No. What was the question?
Just finding, like, since obviously like these substances have a medicinal value to them. I mean, it sounds like we've both shared that experience, but they also can be very fun and rewarding in a more recreational setting. And so what the balance was that you found with that, because it just for myself, it's something that I've sometimes struggled with, where I'm like, when I'm doing it kind of more just a little bit more on the hedonistic, just for shits and gigs and fun side, there's a part of me that feels guilty because they were so powerful as tools in my mental health.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want to sound like a monk, because I had this question in my head lately as well, and I took more than a microdose. I took like extra, let's say like a double of a microdose, which got me a little bit happier lately. Oh, I should clear up that I'm a drug holder. I'm a psychedelic holder. I got psychedelic drugs at home, and whenever I feel like I have something that I need to work on, I just microdose and have like a light trip, and that just releases me. It's becoming of late a little bit more and more. I have a lot of respect for psychedelic drugs. I have a few friends who have gone beyond the threshold, and they suffer schizophrenia now. I shouldn't be divulging that, but whatever.
Don't worry, it's not a massive audience here.
Yeah, but I have experience with people like overstepping their limits with psychedelics, and I know that they are fun. But what happens to me when I take psychedelics is that I get very like working around with the tools that I acquired from my stint in therapy. And I find myself asking the right questions, and I feel like there's a sense of growth after I take psychedelics, which doesn't happen when I take cocaine.
Yeah.
Or MDMA, or I don't know. I haven't taken MDMA. Like, my experience with amphetamines is terrible, so I'm not a good advocate for amphetamines.
But I know what you mean in the sense of like, you know, I've had many mushroom and acid experiences, but I've had, specifically that I can think of, there are like 3 mushroom trips that were like kind of game changers in my life, you know, radically shifted something, you know, even if it was just a degree, when you shift something a degree over a period of time, it's like a big change. And so, and that feeling too of like coming out of it and feeling like that there was, it was like there were truths that I already knew revealed to me, and that's why those insights felt so powerful, where it was just like, oh, of course, like
yeah. But see, the situation with that is that I get to experience that all the time, and like visual aberrations and stuff are not that strong for me. I don't hallucinate that there are things that are not there. Like, I know my limits. I know that if I start doing that, it's going to become dangerous, and I have to be like in a controlled environment. And I usually like to take psychedelics on my own, because I can like interiorize, or just go into a park and watch a tree dance or something like that. And in the meantime, like, the back of my head is working on things. But yeah, that's a party.
Yeah.
That's a party. I like to party. I don't like to like put myself in a situation where I have to say like, well, I have to give this up if I don't want to give it up, or if I don't think that it's ruining my life, or it's making me head into. If I feel like, for instance, weed, I'm very dangerous with weed. Like, I want a witch bender, and right now I don't feel that great, you know. And I don't like weed because otherwise it's either it's all the THC or none of the THC, and there's no market for that here. How about like something smooth, like with more CBDs and THC? You don't get to choose that here. But I don't want to look. I don't want to justify the use or condone it, the use of psychedelics or whatever.
Why not?
Man, because I'm not Joe Rogan, and this isn't like a quest of making people choose. Look, as humans, we have the choice of taking either therapy, which is really fundamental, or you take these loopholes, or I don't know, I like to call them wormholes, because what you can achieve in 1 year of like psychotherapy, which seems to be the therapy of choice from everybody, you can get from two really good, living good people, acid trips, like scaling it up.
Yeah.
Like you have to take all those measures, and people simply don't take those
but
measures.
That's I guess like that was like my question with that is like, I mean, I agree with you. I'm not like saying, oh, everybody should do this or something. More what I wish is like, you know, as a kind of confused 21-year-old, 22-year-old getting into like the party scene and discovering drugs and stuff. You know, like my first mushroom experience was at a music festival. Like we all took way too much. My one friend had been doing coke before and locked himself in a porta potty, and it was kind of traumatic. And it took me a couple of times of doing mushrooms at like festivals and stuff to realize like, oh, it's annoying that I have to like think about time and that we need to go to another stage to try to catch this performance, and like it's actually doing a disservice to what's happening in my head right now. Yeah. And so that's more what I mean is that like what I want to advocate a little bit for is just that they're not necessarily like quote unquote bad, and also there's a value in doing it by yourself and like doing it with the mindset of like, oh, this is a powerful tool, and not let's like take some mushrooms.
But
and
if you take mushrooms just for the beauty of it, I mean, all right, I get it, cool. The thing about doing that is that when they sell it to you like that, like it's gonna be beautiful. The flip side to that is that it might be horrible as well.
Yeah,
you might have a horrible experience because some people are just not comfortable with themselves. And one of the things that psychedelics do to you is like they turn a mirror and they put it to you, and you either go like, nice, or you go, fuck, what the hell is this?
Yeah.
And to me, it was like a love relationship with myself. Like what I saw was like, that's pretty cool. I don't know. I think that.
Have you had like, because I've had a couple of like negative experiences, and I mean, I feel like I was I feel lucky that it was like those kind of more, I had some really amazing life-changing experiences. So then when I had some more challenging experiences, I was able to, not in the moment, but like over the next days and weeks afterwards, contextualize it. And actually for me, like I actually feel like I really, like I'm thinking of, I had one really terrible trip where I felt like I accidentally took all this mushroom powder that was at the bottom of a bag, and I was camping by myself in fucking like northern Idaho, and it was
just tripping balls,
and I thought I had like really permanently damaged myself. But what in hindsight, what I thought was like, I spent this whole time, I mean, I was obsessing about that, which was part of why I was having such a bad time. But also I was like coming up with a plan. Like it sounds stupid, but in my head I'm like, I'll just have to live with my parents, you know, like I'm lucky enough. I have great parents. Like I can go to high schools. I can talk about like drugs. Like I was really like, I was like fully committed. I was like, I'm a broken brain person now, and I'm going to be like but what I took, like the contextualize from that for me was like, oh, like what I could learn from that was like any situation I can find a way to make it work for myself. And that's a lesson in hard times to me, to be like, you can make it work for yourself.
Yeah, that's the message that you get. I mean, it's like, see, we're turning into fucking Joe Rogan right now. Is there another structure in the planet with the complexity of the fungi? Like what you see, the mushrooms that you see are, like I told somebody I know that it's just a mushroom going like, hey, come here. I have a message for you. I have something to tell you. And it's information that it's exchanging with you. If your ears and eyes aren't open to it, then you might be fucked. That's the other issue. It's like, all right, so what do you do after the Maya's veil is lifted? I remember that when I used to take ayahuasca, I took like a few times at my hometown. Then I went to live in Bogotá, and then from Bogotá I went to the Putumayo, and I stayed at a shaman's like a ranch for a week. He had a maloca, and a lot of like litters on the floor for people to sleep on. And he will wake you up at 6 a.m. and just like, bam, ayahuasca in the morning before breakfast or whatever.
Really?
Good morning. And just like start playing the guitar and moving you around and then beating you with, what is it called? Ortig? Or I don't know, what is it called in English? It's a plant with, fuck.
But it's like basically he has like a bushel of these like leaves, and he's
this leaves with like
kind of thorns on them.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of that in English, for fuck's sakes.
I never realized how terrible a grasp I had of the English language until I started spending more time with people who were their second language, and they'd be like, "What's the word for this?" And I'm like,
I don't know.
No fucking idea.
All right, so and they will beat you with that, and it will itch, but you shouldn't scratch. So you get like this nice work, and at the same time you're tripping balls, and you're doing that 3 times a day in the jungle. Sometimes the taita will just take you for a walk, and the walk will be like on a river, on a rock bed, and it will be upstream towards a waterfall. You're tripping balls, right?
Yeah.
And you're doing this on slippery rocks. You're climbing. And then you get there, and he tells you, we're going to take some more.
Oh, shit.
And then we're going to go down. And you're like, what the fuck? We just came up this, and we're going to go down after we take more? Fuck it, let's do it. And then he'll feed you that shit, and it's like, all right, it's time to go down. And I will be like, just like shitting myself. And suddenly he just goes like, instead of left, we're going to go right. And you go right. And there's like this orchard of just Amazonic trees all over the place. Wow. And he just takes you down the trees, showing you every tree, just telling you, this is the vine from what the ayahuasca is made and stuff. And it's just like, fuck you, that's great. We did that a week, my girlfriend at the moment and that was it for me. I didn't want to do ayahuasca anymore. Like, I did it more than some of the people in the Kuna community, which is like the tribe where like people take ayahuasca once in their lifetime just to get like a vision of what they want to do. And all right, this is what we're gonna do. And then the rest of their life, they either take alcohol or, you know, whatever drug the white man left behind.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, so that I feel like actually is a nice segue that kind of brings us back to the topic of like this hero's journey, because, you know, you're 16, 17, and you have to leave home.
No, I didn't leave home until I was, oh my God, the first time that I truly left my country, I was 25. It was
But I mean, you had to
2005.
move out of your mom's house.
Yeah, and that was when I was 24.
Oh, that was okay. That was when you were 24.
Yeah.
Okay. And so at that point, was this before this ayahuasca experience that you just talked about?
No. I mean, this is before. After that, I ended up living in Bogotá for a while. I was working in a restaurant because I couldn't get a job as anything else other than waiter. I was 25, of course. And I ended up working at this swanky restaurant as a maitre d'. I made a lot of money, and they gave me holidays, and I took those holidays, and I took my girlfriend, and I went to Putumayo to do some ayahuasca.
Okay.
To the to the outcry of my mother-in-law, who was like, "Why are you guys going to Putumayo?" It's like, whatever, we're just gonna do drugs in the jungle. Just leave us alone. So that was my and then I started working in film in Colombia, and I started doing more.
After because I was gonna ask you like this, I mean, that experience sounds incredibly intense. This week-long, crazy psychedelic journey. Do you feel like that changed you in some way, or was it? Yeah.
I mean, it sparked something really dark in me, but it was actually also Bogotá. I mean, Bogotá sparked a lot of darkness in me as well, because I had to hide some aspect of my life that I don't know, because of family. And is
it fair to say that like in Colombia in general, it's a bit more conservative? I mean, it's a fairly Catholic country and stuff, right?
Yeah, Bogotá is not that conservative, but it's a very predatory town. Like, people are behind you at some point, and if they can't get something out of you, they're just like chew you off. And that bothered me a lot. Like, if they cannot use you.
So how did you make the transition from working as a maitre d' to starting to get into film?
Oh, man, that's so great. I don't know. I fucked it up at some point at that work, and I ended up unemployed. And a friend of mine started working like on a TV production, and she asked me if I wanted to be like a stagehand. Because they were putting some backstage work. And they were putting they were turning a sport complex into an airport. So they were doing a lot of set dressing there, and they need an extra hand. And my friend called me and told me like, there's this amount of money. I was like, sure. And I went there, and it reminded me of when my mom used to be a makeup artist. And my mom used to take me to set. Like the excitement of the backstage.
Yeah,
people
totally.
behind the scenes just brought me back to that. And I was like, I never want to do anything else. And I started there, and that day I just like slithered my way around the set and started talking and flirting with the people from the wardrobe department, and they took me on a job. And then somebody from the wardrobe department introduced me to somebody in the set department, and they brought me in for a job. And then they called me for another job with another company. That job was with a Danish DOP, director of photography. No, actually, it was a gaffer. It was the big honcho in the lighting department. Was working in that production, and he recommended that I was the prop master. So they made me prop master.
What is prop master? Because I'm just imagining you with a giant chest of like fucking like a hat with a rabbit in it. And
no, this was like a Western. This was a Volkswagen commercial. That was supposed to be like a Western. So these people from Denmark decided to shoot it in Colombia because it was cheaper, and they had like all the equipment that they needed to shoot it. And I was there as a prop master. The prop master for a shoot from the Western includes guns, toys, elements for shops, Bibles, fans, things like that. But they made me like prop master, and at the same time I convinced the masters of weapons to leave me the arsenal behind for an extra shoot day, because he needed to go back. So if he went back, all the guns will have to leave with him. So I had to convince him, and I had like, all right, so I'm gonna bribe him.
Yeah.
So I think I actually didn't bribe him. I actually just like talked to him, and he was very nice. And he was very understanding. He was like, right, so you're gonna be the master of arms now, and you're gonna have to sign this, and you're gonna be responsible for the guns. And that was it. And he left me all the arsenal, and I had all the guns in my bedroom for a night. So of course I played like, put guns on myself and just went, yeah. I was the one who ordered the guns anyway, so the guy was really nice. Now that I remember that, I didn't have to like bribe a lot of people in film. I didn't have to buy a lot of cocaine for people.
Really?
Yeah. It's amazing.
And so you start, and you're kind of just like winding your way into this industry. And at what point do you start to think about like, I want to leave Colombia?
It's funny because my choice of wanting to leave Colombia and making my way through the industry came like at the same point. Mm-hmm. Like when I started to leave Colombia, I started like going up on my film career in Colombia. My reputation was shaky at best. I had gone through rehab. I had gone through a hard breakup, like a violent breakup, like a weird relationship that I had.
Mm-hmm. Do you mind me asking what you went like to rehab for?
Alcohol. Yeah, I'm not a fan of getting drunk. Mm-hmm. I like alcohol. I can take alcohol, and all the therapy that I've done and all these things have made me understand where my compulsive consumption of substances come from. So whenever I have like a compulsion, I know that there's something wrong that I need to address, and I usually address it. I have tools to address it. I miss friends and stuff just to talk about things. Now, I can make do with the people that I have around me, and it's a bitch to find a therapist in Berlin. It's super.
I hear the system here is really like.
No, it's good. Actually, if you get you go to like your house arts and they remit you. The problem is like the whole process of getting a therapist is just like dating. Mm-hmm. You have to like
find the right match.
Yeah, and you have to like do the email thing and talk to the people, and that breaks my heart because I had already like a great therapist. I'm scratching this talking about therapy. Yeah. Look, I look like I have a problem. Well, yeah, therapy. No, but that's the thing. Like fucking going through the ropes. It's just like, oh no. Have you ever had a therapist telling you, I can't help you with your shit. No. I can't help you with that. No, that's a very regular thing to hear from a therapist. Like when you're like going through the rounds before you fall in love with a therapist and somebody who's gonna spend the next 40 minutes or 1 hour a week with you. I mean, I have relationships that are like that as well. And and it's somebody else that I have to bring into my life. I already have a couple therapists because I think that's important just to keep yourself in check and to have like sometimes a what is it called? A neutral mind in between
some
two
a
people.
neutral perspective to just kind of. That's something my parents always said to me growing up. Was like they were like, if you ever get married, you have to, even if you have no problems, just go to couples counseling for a few months, just because it's
You get good training wheels, like talking about your like I'm getting better at talking about my emotions and what I'm going through, and being grateful to each other and talk about it and things like that. And at the end of the day, I made a good I don't want to call it choice, but I like choosing to be a parent now with my partner has been wise. This person is in it for the long run. I should say it's getting kind of serious now in the third trimester. I mean, this is the first time that I got like, oh, the relationship is getting serious. I mean, the pregnancy is like,
the baby's due any time now, and I think we might be in it for the long haul.
Yeah. I mean,
it's like we're gonna be in each other's lives for the rest of our life.
I don't think that change happens from one day to the next, but the process is being nice, and I think that when the baby arrives, I'm not going to be completely done, and I don't think I'm going to be done until the baby's like 20 years. I don't know. I'm starting to understand my mom's process as a parent more and more. My dad's process. Oh, sorry.
Oh, you're good.
My dad's process as a parent as well. And it makes me feel good. Like I see where they went, what they did, their intentions and stuff. And all I can think is like, oh man, if I learn something from my child, I hope at the same time I can show them something.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I think I'm gonna be learning more from them. I think mostly what I'm gonna be doing is like guidance or just like showing around. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But
so, we were talking a little bit about like when you were leaving Colombia.
Oh yeah, we're going back to that. Yeah. Okay, so at that point I was like, fine. I have to either get out of my current job and make it up in this business, or I just have to still stop bullshitting myself, and I have to write something and make it as a writer. And I started like sneaking around at Fox, because I used to work at Fox in Colombia. It was we did series like for Latin America and telenovelas for Colombia and Latin America, and I was a production assistant. Like, they did a Hollywood movie actually for Burn Notice, and I was a transport coordinator for that one. So they kept me around at Fox, just I don't know, either to fuck with me or fuck with people. I was employed there for a while. I think they hated me. I mean, and I'll tell you why. This is not arbitrary for me to say that they hated me, but the fact is that I started like sliming around through the content department and just asking like, how does it work? How do you make a show? It's like, well, people come, they pitch their ideas, and it's like, anybody can come. It's like, yeah, if you're a writer and you know me, then you can come around. Like, I'm a writer. It's like, right, okay.
Yeah.
Like, great, I'll pitch you ideas.
Bring me something you've written.
I'll pitch you ideas. And I started because I was working on reality-style documentaries for a bunch of cable channels in South America in the Fox family. And I thought, like, well, the reality format works. So I started writing, like, reality formats. And I started sending them to
What does that mean, like, writing a reality format? Does that mean, like, just coming up with kind of, like, the context and parameters of, like, who and how you're going to shoot something?
Yeah, no.
Or...
Do you know that show, Home Improvements, or
like or like where they like redo people's houses.
yeah, move that boss thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Okay, so that's basically a bunch of contractors that a TV producer who can kind of direct put together. He gets a electronic team, which is like a cameraman, a sound guy, and a microphone. Like usually it's just like a journalist or something like that, but you don't get a journalist, you get like these contractors, and they start telling you like, oh well, we can do this house with this and this and this and this, and then you get the sponsorship from Home Depot or somebody with materials to do this renovation or something like that, and somebody who wants to be on TV and generate like traffic into the shop or whatever. So you come up with a concept like that. You put it like in a format. You say like, this happens at the beginning, this happens at the middle, this happens at the end. And I had an idea for a travel show that will be like a home renovation show where people would just go to communities and teach them that instead of like trying to acquire the ways of the West or doing these houses that are not like nature efficient, they will do like, I don't know, dry latrines or compost their ground or use recycled elements to build houses that are wind efficient, or Habitat for Humanity does that.
Yeah.
So you bring Habitat for Humanity and this like home renovation show, and you put them together and you start doing something that is interesting, that is innovating or something like that, like.
And doing like some real good.
Some social work.
Yeah.
So I wrote that and they were like, yeah, this is not going to work, but great writing. It's a high concept. Maybe.
They're like, try again in 2022.
No, they told me like, is this really what you want to do? And I was like, no, that's not what I want to do. What I want to do is a comedy series.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of comedy series? And there was an Australian show in FX called, I think it was Wilfred.
Oh yeah, with the dog.
With Elijah Wood.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah, so that's the kind of format that I like. That kind of like dramedy, But I ended up creating a pilot and a series arc for a show about a person who looks for a job. So every episode will be the person applying for a different job in a different stage of a selection process with different wardrobe, showing some sort of like character arc. Like
that's a really interesting idea. It sounds like it could be really cool.
Like you would if you were looking for a job, like from being out of the university all the way to applying for a high-end job with like a power suit and technological gadgets and stuff all around. So from being just like a raggedy jeans wearing student to the power suit person. And on the last episode, he won't get the job. He never gets a job.
Yeah.
He never gets a job, but he's always looking for a job. No?
Yeah.
So that's the first season, and the second season is getting the job and is keeping the job. So in every episode, he loses the job. But then the next episode, he's in a new job.
Yeah.
Competing to stay
to try it,
on the job. Yeah. And then the third season, you made him run for government. 'Cause that's the highest selection process that you have.
Yeah.
And that's it. And you have like a 3-season character arc, a simple thing that you don't have to put a lot of money to produce. You can make you can make the character, you can change it every season and you wouldn't notice because this person changes. It's like a Doctor Who thing.
Yeah, totally.
And who hasn't looked for a job?
Yeah, really. And I mean, also like such a fun, like meaty thing to explore, like all these different types of career paths and the different the ways you have to kind of change yourself for this job or that job.
All right, so I wrote that episode. There was a 21-minute thing with 2 act breaks that work as commercial breaks, and I sent that, and they came back to me and they were like, "Hey, can you do that as a web series? And can you show us if you can do it like on a web series?" And I was like, "Yeah, hell yeah." So what I thought back then from web series is that you can actually use a format on the internet that is it's the playlist from YouTube. I love the playlist from YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
You put like several things one after the other. Facebook plays it, and you get to see like a complete body of work of, let's say, Tim and Eric.
Yeah.
So you have all that content in one. Or now the algorithm does it on its own. You know, it sends you like, oh, you like this Tim and Eric? Like,
Then you might like
another one. So what I thought was, all right, so they want to do this on the web. The attention span on the web is maximum 41 minutes, although YouTube likes you to stay for 7 minutes or more.
Shit, we are at an hour 12.
Oh, shit.
We really overdid the 3 or 4 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
No.
We did.
But yeah, so the web thing, it's a shorter time.
Yeah. So what you do is you put all those episodes in a 21-minute block. That means you make seven 3-minute episode, and you have like a thing in between of it, which is the character growing because of the clothes. So you tell a story in 21 minutes, which is a regular sitcom episode, and you turn it into an episode. So you watch a whole season of that in 21 minutes, and you watch like short spurts of a story that would have been super boring in like 3 seasons of, writing 7 or 8 episodes every year and producing 7 or 8 episodes of this. Producing 21 minutes of content, it's easy. So what I wrote it, I wrote 3 episodes. The first one, like the pilot, the one in the middle, which was kind of like a, what is it called? Slapstick comedy. It didn't have a lot of dialogue. That was my strong forte. That's why they call me. And when they call me back, I'm like, we really like that you use like little dialogue. That's really good.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I mean. And then the final episode, I wrote the first one, the middle, and the end one, with the possibility of writing the other ones. And they liked it and they bought it. They gave me a little bit of money just to have the idea.
Mm-hmm.
And they never called me back. They offered me a job as a writer, but writing telenovelas. Like, I will have to write a telenovela. Like, I will have to, like, right, show us something and we'll pay you for it. And yeah, they never called me back. They had sacked me from a job previous there, so it was pretty funny getting back in after I was
after
sacked.
you were,
So they fired me from my production job because I changed productions. Because I didn't want to be with a producer that was treating me like shit.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm going to give you a job and you're going to like it. It's like, all right. And then she demoted me from that job to an assistant's job. And I was like, and I was just getting nothing. Like nothing. I wouldn't have been able to pay rent and feed myself. And I was like, no, I'm not doing this. So I jumped ship. And before I could like give my job to somebody else, I went on a location scouting with the team where I was going to be location manager. And the producer just got really angry. And she told me, like, fire him. Don't get him into any other productions in this slot. And they fired me. They made me leave. They made me leave my badge. And they were like, walk me. And it's like, he's not coming back. And
And then they paid you for this web series.
and then a week later, I'm there, and it's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I have a meeting.
Yeah.
I have a meeting in content. I'm sorry. They like one of my ideas, so.
Yeah. So anyway.
Thank you very much. And they told me, like, do you want to take a job? And I was like, yeah, sure. When I come back from visiting my mom in Sweden. And that was, because I told them that I was going to try to study here in Sweden. That went out of the window as soon as I landed here.
So your mom somehow ends up
My
in
mom
Sweden?
lives in Sweden. Yeah, my mom married a guy that she met on a Yahoo public chat room in 2004, I want to say, 3. I don't know. Yeah, they met on the internet and they married.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard of a marriage come from a Yahoo chat room.
Public chat room.
Public chat room.
This people can find their match on fucking Tinder, and they have like the chance of speaking to somebody for a long time in a private room made only for you and your match. My mom met this guy in that pit hole of snakes and internet monsters, and she's been with him ever since then, with Francisco. They live in Sweden in a small town called Åmål.
So
I go and visit.
A happy ending to the pit of snakes of the internet.
I mean, I used to tell her, like, I don't know what kind of crazy people you meet on the internet. What the fuck is wrong with you? And that's how we date now. It was such a humbling experience just to know that my mom was more advanced than me on that front. She made it. She made it without any fact checking algorithm or anything like that. Just like, fuck, that's respect. Yeah.
So you go to Sweden, and you're thinking, maybe I'll study. And had you been to Europe before that?
Yes, in 2005.
Okay.
I've been to Spain. I'd been to Germany. I had been to France.
And did that plant a seed of like, I would maybe like to come over here?
I wanted to come back the next year to Berlin, and I had like a friend who's not a friend anymore buy me a plane ticket. No, actually, I bought a plane ticket, but 2 months before I was going to take that plane, the company went bankrupt. So I lost that plane ticket.
Ah, shit.
And somebody bought me a ticket so I could be here in Germany in 2005. And they didn't let me into that flight. I don't know why. I think it was because of my luggage wasn't all duffel bag. Yeah. So they left me behind on the 24th of December. And I completely forgot about coming to Germany. I met a woman, and we started a torrid relationship. And I was such a troubled soul that, I mean, drama just followed me all over.
Yeah.
It's like, why do I always get involved with this drama, people? And it's like, it's because me.
It was me. It was
me all along. The killer was always inside the house.
Yeah.
It was always me. So yeah.
So then you come over again to visit your mom and maybe study. What year is that?
That's 2011. Yeah.
2011.
The end part of 2011.
And how did you find your way to Berlin from there?
So I was on my mom's for a while, trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I didn't want to go back to Colombia because I had an experience. As soon as I arrived to my mom's house, I developed an infection on a tooth that had been, they did like a root canal.
Mm-hmm.
But they did it wrong, so they left like a nerve, a piece of the nerve, and that started to get infected. And to come to Europe, I had to have travel health insurance. So I had to go to the hospital and I had to take the tooth out, put me on antibiotics, like the strongest European antibiotics. And that changed my body.
Really?
Oh my God, it was so strong that I felt like empty. And it was winter in Sweden, not a lot of light.
Oof, yeah.
So I had moments of beauty. I have moments of darkness. I had a lot of weird moments. Like my mom's house felt like stuffy and clogged, and
Yeah.
a lot of things. And I was just blaming it on them, and just I was out of my depth. But I knew that something was happening, that I was being taken out of a situation that had become so toxic to me that I was becoming functional within that society. I had just like made my way around. And the society in Bogotá does not have health as one of the high ranking priorities.
Yeah.
So as soon as I got here, I just started to worry about health and stuff. But at the same time, I was living with my mom. So I put out this call. And of all places, somebody in Leipzig, a friend from Colombia, offered me her house while she was in Colombia traveling. That would have been February from 2012. That's when I came here. I arrived. No, actually in December, I was shortly here in Berlin. And when I arrived to Berlin, I was like, I don't want to live in Berlin.
Yeah.
Because it was romantic in 2005 and it was still livable and it was still like a little bit like disheveled, but the right amount, like poor but chic and shit. It was amazing. In 2011, it was just like, it smelled like, oh fuck, everybody wants to be a graphic designer or famous or something like that. And I had just got out of Bogotá because I didn't want to live on that. I was living like on the art world in Bogotá, and it was just like, that's it. I don't want to see the same people. I want to see something different. And I arrived in Leipzig, which is 2 hours southeast on the way to Poland. No, on the way to the Czech Republic. And I met my ex-wife there one night on a bar. I don't know. I went out. I had like the right kind of energy, and I ended up attracting this person. And this person became really important in my life in a very short period of time. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know what was up with me at that moment. Maybe I was in need of codependency and a little bit of edge in my life. But I latched onto that energy, and I stayed there for a while, 3 years. I mean, 5 if you count the ones that I was just like under the influence of love sickness and, you know, all that. Later, I found out that that's like a posture that I learned from TV, film, a lot of albums from the 90s and literature. Like this thing that you have to look like you're fucked up by life just to be interesting, which is bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it's, you know, that puppy dog, sentimental, broken person that needs fixing. I know. I lived through that a lot, and it wasn't nice. And my ex-wife also had like an idea about Latino people, that Latino people were supposed to be happy all the time and, you know, like festive and stuff. And I wasn't that, and I wasn't. Oh, look, something happened.
Oh, I don't know. We're good.
All right. Something happened. I think that camera went out. No?
Maybe, I'm not sure, but I mean, this one is going, so
It's still going?
yeah, we're good. We got the main one.
So yeah, I married this character, and then I married too quickly because there was no other way for me to stay. I was madly in love with the idea of having a family. Katya had a daughter, and I got to play parent, dad at that moment. But yeah, it was just showing out that I had things that I had to work on myself, and ways that I had to be more true to myself than and Katya was ready to accept, or to live with, or if those were prices. I think she was a very intuitive person, because she used to tell me, like, you need something else. It feels like you need something else. It feels like you need more. And she was right. I mean, monogamy was not my thing. Was never my thing. And I wasn't this man that she had imagined, and I was not fulfilling those fantasies. And we married because I needed the paperwork. But other than that, I think we would have waited.
Yeah.
She didn't want to marry it, and I was gonna go back to Colombia. I was like,
but it was it was your guys' only opportunity to pursue the.
I mean, we were together and we were in love with each other, and she liked the idea of like having a family with me, and I liked the idea of having a family with her. And her daughter was amazing, so I fell in love with the whole package. But at the end of the relationship, that changed pretty quick. Mm-hmm. And we realized that we were very different people. And she caught me off the life of the child, so that was
really hard, because you had this connection.
That sunk me. I mean, it was a thing of being on the street and not being able to watch families with children, because I would just like break down and cry on the street. Or that story about delivering pizzas and just like having tears in your eyes. It's just like, it's this sadness, this deep sadness that you're like, fuck. And
in that moment, did that make you think, oh, I want to be a parent in the future? Or did that make you think like, oh, this is too hard and raw for me, I don't want this again?
I didn't have any energy to muster a vegetative or future thought. I was really empty. I was just feeling that, and everything was a punch, like a hard punch. Even like moving around, the act of moving around felt heavy on my shoulders. Like it would be like a sunny day outside, and it would be just like, I can't bring myself. And the times that I brought myself out of that lethargy, just to go out, to go to the lake, felt like this achievement, this like I made it. But just thinking about like mental health issues are also transmittable, and you don't have that kind of talk beforehand, like with people. I mean, people worry about STIs, and worry about that one too, because that one's heavy. That one's pretty hard. And if something happens in your life, you want to have those skills. You want to have the skills to cope with shit, not being broken so much that you're like, fuck. And then your body has to kick in with a depression, because that's what I learned about my depression. My depression was sort of an inflammation of my emotions. They were like covering myself, and then I had to put my emotions back together.
I think also for myself, like something I feel like is not spoken enough about with depression is that like that there's like a seductive nature to it. Like there were times where it was like I wanted to wrap myself in the darkness and like, let me listen to this song that makes me feel worse, and
But why are you doing it? Are you doing it really just to like learn something? Do you come out of it with answers, or
not at all? I just think that there was like seductive is just the best word I can put it, is that like that for me, part of my coming out of my depression was also needing to make an active choice that like, I need to fight against this somehow.
Yeah.
Push back.
No, to me it became just like first of all, accepting that there was like a river of sadness running beneath the history of my family, like deep pain caused by sadness underneath it all, and just going like accepting it, but saying like, this ends with me right now, and just understanding that I am not to blame for my genetic material or whatever comes to me genetically, but I am responsible for what I generate in this life. So, for instance, that comfort that you talk about, just getting in bed, and I call that my bear skin, because I make the analogy like the Revenant, the same way that Leonardo DiCaprio had to get like in the coat made out of the bear that mold him to that state, is the thing that helps him regenerate. Now, when do our defense mechanisms or these regenerating mechanisms become against us? Because any habit can become something against yourself. Like drugs can be fun, but if you abuse them, then you have to reckon with consequences at the end of it. Like something's going to happen to you. One of the hardest consequences of abuse of drugs is death.
Yeah.
That's real. At the same time, drugs can be a lot of fun if you know how to like take your distance from drugs and stuff like that. And the same thing is with depression. Like, what's the importance of sadness in your life? What's the importance of accepting every emotion the way they come? My problem is that I'm either super happy or I'm angry. Those are the two emotions that I was brought up to believe that it was normal to
just swing between these two.
And that's hard. And I had an issue with that all my life. This binarism of like, it's either this or this. And well, this the only two emotions as well. And I never really worried about that until I started going to therapy, until just now. So everybody probably is out there knowing like, that's like joy, anger, disgust, trust is another emotion.
Yeah.
I mean, there's 8 of them. I'm not gonna name them all of them right now because but you know, there's more than 2. You don't have to move between 2 of them only. You can bask on your sadness as long as you know that there are more emotions there, and there's joy and sadness, and there's like moments of trust or moments of and that emotions in itself are not so potent or not 100% pure. They have a nuance as well. Like you can go from contentment to ecstasies and joy, and you'll be within the spectrum, but you're feeling a different kind of thing, and then you're feeling a little bit from here, a little bit from there. You just have to know what you're feeling, and I'm learning.
Accept it also. Like, I mean, that was, I think, a problem for me was sometimes that it's like I felt like I was bad if I felt sad, and like it's okay to feel sad sometimes.
What are you gonna do? You're gonna reach into your serotonin empty well and go like, hey, come on. That's the other part. If you're gonna do drugs, what kind of drugs are you gonna do? And if they're hard drugs, do you know that you're gonna get like milked out of your serotonin, and then you're gonna feel shitty? So if you're already feeling shitty, try not to do drugs, or try just to like. I think I'm talking to myself right now, but yeah, I gotta stop. I gotta stop at a moment doing weed. I think weed has run its course with me, but
weed is something that I feel like can be like sneakily insidious in just that it's like it's so easy, and it can for me it can become so easily part of my routine and my habit, and then I don't even notice that I'm starting to get like a little bit dragged down, a little bit in more of a fog. And
I'm in that fog right now. I have to be honest. I mean, it was so great to have stand-up comedy because my mind was busy all the time, and I was writing material, and I was just like honing material, going from this place to the other, and trying this and trying that. That's not happening anymore. And like I say, there's so much that I can see at home, and I didn't move to Berlin to stay in my house the way that I used to do in Leipzig, because Leipzig was just like a regenerative experience for me, and I wasn't very popular. Every friendship that I had, because they were student, will leave like every 3 months. So I will have to make new friends and stuff. So it wasn't like, it didn't feel like home. I still have an apartment, an address there, and I'm still subscribed in Germany to that place. But Berlin feels more like home because it's decentralized, and you can have friends that are like chosen family. And you don't have to pretend that you're somebody that you're not. And you can be whoever you want to be, and people are going to accept you. And whatever you're into, there's a scene for you. And there's an opportunity to get social about your subjects or whatever you like.
Yeah. So what was the journey for you then, like, in terms of comedy? Like, when did you start thinking, like, I want to maybe get up on stage? Like, had you always been a fan of stand-up, or was it something you were exposed to at a certain point?
When I was 17, there was a wave of illegal cable in my hometown. That meant a lot of pay-per-view, Cinemax and HBO, for free.
Yeah.
With closed captions. So I started to practice the English that I started to learn in Aruba. And at some point, HBO just presented me with George Carlin. And then there was Sinbad had a comedy half hour. And then back then it was Patton Oswalt, David Cross, and Dave Chappelle. doing like a half an hour thing in San Francisco. Oh, Janine Garofalo had a half an hour in that thing too. Was it Janine Garofalo? Yeah, it was Janine Garofalo. But it introduced me to all this like alternative comedian. Then I started watching Mr. Show as well.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm talking about 94, 95.
Yeah.
MTV was also part of the package. So you had like Alternative Nation, MTV and stuff.
And MTV in that time too, to my understanding, they did some comedy stuff, like stand-up as well.
Chris Hardwick, which is something that I've been rewatching lately, which is At Midnight, started on MTV and Singled Out. Yeah, he started on MTV. I didn't know he was that funny, but then I realized that it was like a whole community of comedians in California who not only do stand-up comedy but also do like sketches and shit. And either they perform at the Comedy Store or they perform all over Los Angeles. Yeah. And they work like in films and stuff. And then there's the New York people, and then I ended up like learning all these things about comedy. Never, ever thinking about doing comedy. But I did have like a lot of friends who spoke English and who used to tell me like, you have to do stand-up at some point.
Yeah.
It's like, what? Yeah, you like stand-up and you have like the cadence and you speak about things and you're like, all right. And then when I got the press, before I got the press, I started just like thinking, well, maybe if I start going to Berlin and perform on these open mics, then I don't know, I'll get like a rush or something like that. I see something like a hobby. Fine. Never did it. And then I got the press and I started listening to all these podcasts. It was like the golden age of Paul F. Tompkins and Scott Aukerman.
Yeah.
And Super Ego podcast, like all these podcasts.
Doug Loves Movies and like exactly, the beginnings of WTF with Mark Maron.
Comedy Bang Bang. What else? How Did This Get Made?
Oh, yeah.
The Super Ego. My favorite, I still listen to, is the Super Ego podcast. So I will listen to all these people and I will go like, you know, I could do that.
Yeah.
I started saying like I could do that. And then I moved to Berlin and things started happening and I started dating people. And I was kind of falling into a drug-fueled depression back then.
Mm-hmm.
I was just dating, going out, partying, doing drugs, and dating some more. And I dated this person who once invited me to one day just told me like, let's go to this comedy show, stand-up comedy. Like, oh, that's that thing that I used to like. All right, there's comedy here in Berlin. Yeah. I forgot completely that I had found out that there was comedy here and I was going to come and do shows. So, oh, there's comedy. Great. And she took me to that, and Francesco Christoph was on stage. It was the Berlin Comedy Offensive, which was like a really offensive show. And Francesco said something like, I'm 34 and I feel pretty old. And I went like, bullshit. He was like, I beg your pardon. I was like, bullshit. You're 34. You're not allowed to complain about feeling old. And it was pretty funny. People found that funny. And then at the end of the show, two things happened. Francesco told me like, hey, you think you're that funny? Why don't you go to an open mic? That was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Why don't you go to an open mic and try your luck out? And I was like, sure, where's an open mic? And he talked to me about the floating lounge. I'm like, fine, I'll find you on the internet and see what I can do. And the girl that went with me on a date told me like, yeah, it's probably better if we don't see each other. Because I was the asshole that
yelled out during the show and became a thing. And
yeah. So I started doing comedy after that. Went to the Laughing Lounge, had an amazing first set. I bombed, but it was amazing for me.
Yeah.
It was exhilarating. I started singing on stage, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. And just the chorus. I don't know the whole verses and stuff.
There is a thrill to, even if you go up, like when you go up on stage and you have something you think is funny and you like present it to this crowd of people and then there's just nothing. I thought like that's also a thrill. The pucker of the butthole. I mean,
I thought I was a genius. I thought I had something because my set that day was like I experienced vintage racism in Germany. Somebody called me the N-word on a small town. Me. Yeah. Called me the N-word. I was like, all right. So I don't think my grandma will have been happy with that. And I was going to talk about how Leipzig was the excuse that people find in Berlin to get rid of you when you can't find an apartment. It's like, oh, you can't find an apartment. Why don't you try in Leipzig? They say it's like the new Berlin. Leipzig is not the new Berlin. Yeah. So yeah, I had those, and I go on stage, and the first thing that I do is that I put the mic too far away from my mouth, and somebody on the first row very lovingly starts going like, this like cute guy starts going like, and I'm like, what do you want? You want a blowjob? This is not the time for a blowjob.
Talk to me after.
And the people just erupted in laughter, and that was it. That was out. It was like, I have practiced this to go on for 5 minutes, but before I went on, I said like, what if I panic? I said like, well, then I have a meltdown.
Meltdowns can be funny.
No, but I said like, well, okay, what kind of meltdown? What am I going to do in my meltdown? So I just sing Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. Just like acknowledge that you're having a meltdown and start singing Shake It Off by Taylor Swift and start clapping with one hand. Yeah. So that people start clapping and get off the stage. That's it. Like, all right. So I go, this guy gives me that, and I was like, I guess I'm bombing tonight. I guess I'm going to have a panic attack on stage. And I had a panic attack on stage and led people into singing Shake It Off. Yeah. A comedian told me, like, that was very funny. I was like, all right, let's see how much that that goes on. And it was amazing. And ever since then, I've been lying to myself going on stage. I think I'm pretty funny. Most of the comedians in the scene don't think I'm pretty funny. Some of them do. Whoever doesn't, yeah, I like every comedian here. Like I find it funny in every comedian.
Yeah, totally.
I find the lazy in comedians that repeat the same material, but I usually like the comedians that are like trying new things or not going
What
with
I
prepared
enjoy
material.
like from going to the mics a lot is to see the way like the work is getting done, where I'm like, okay, like it's the same bit, but you moved this word here, and you're kind of like you're trying to fucking make this a thing somehow.
I'm gonna sound super braggy, or not braggy, but what's that word that I'm looking for? Not even superfluous, but like
Pretentious?
I'm gonna sound real pretentious right now. So avoidant. I wasn't just like, oh, I'm pretentious. I'm gonna sound real pretentious right now. But I'm not getting paid for this, so I like to do it as a cook would do it. Like every 3 months a new menu.
Yeah.
You know? So right enough so you can go like, all right, I'm gonna kick around these 5 minutes these 3 months. Like this is gonna be my spring set. This is gonna be my summer set. This is gonna be my fall set. This is gonna be my winter set. And then see what happens. Like that was my first year, and my second year was going in that direction as well. Like as soon as the lockdown was lifted, in what I'm calling now the COVID taint. You remember? There was a COVID taint. There was like the first lockdown, COVID taint, second lockdown.
Yeah. And what a glorious taint it was.
It was amazing taint. I had so much taint. I mean, until I couldn't enjoy that taint anymore. But yeah, during the COVID taint, I started new material.
Yeah.
You know, I went like, all right, because I had done the Berlin New Stand Up Award, and I got into the semifinal on that.
Oh, nice.
I went down with completely new material. I went on stage with material that I didn't perform on the previous set.
Okay.
Nobody recommends that. Everybody tells you like, no, go with the same set and add 2 minutes and stuff. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to do something else. And I went with a joke that is like, oof, it's too hard. And people just were like, no, we don't want to have it. It was, but I went down swinging, and people laughed. There were people cackling on stage, and that was an amazing experience.
Sometimes also like that's a great laugh, is the laugh that's like you missed 95% of the people, but there's just two
people,
and you're like, yes.
Yes, you two know what I'm talking about. I'm gonna come when I say it, and that threw people off, was like, I'm gonna come tonight thinking about that laughter. And I didn't, but I thought it would be like like the proper celebration for that moment. But I had a few laughters on that show. Everybody was being smart and just doing the same material that they had done like a month ago on hot shows, really hot shows. I was just like, like the emceeing was genius. They will give you 5 minutes. At the 5 minutes mark, they will like cut you off.
Yeah.
And everybody was on their game. Like the first round was just like amazing, just to go see shows and see all these comedians. And that fucking led to the taint. And at the taint, I started just doing like new material again after that whole thing from 1 year. I was like, all right, I need to come up with new material. And I started talking about wanting to have children and this and that. And the lockdown came. And now I have new material, which I'm scared that I'm not going to get out. Do you know what I mean? It has this thing like, it also ripens and then it's...
Yeah, that was the other thing I wanted to ask you about, was like, kind of your writing process, because I've also been doing some of that where it's like in this lockdown I felt like, okay, like you can't get on stage, but like I want to stay active, and so I've been trying to have some structure to writing and stuff. But also it's like, there's like the idea, the kind of the one line, and then if I start trying to like write it out more, I'm like, I don't know really how helpful that is, or if I'm getting anything out of that. It's like, I feel like I kind of have the thing, and the next step is that it needs to go on stage and try to like figure it out there more.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
so what is your process with that?
I do premises. I think of something that I might be able to milk. For instance, I'm on buttholes right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the natural progression from taint. So
I'm trying to milk a butthole for 5 minutes of material. Before the lockdown, I was up to 3, and it was getting funny. And now I have I took that and I started writing more things relevant to that. So I have those moments when I come with something like, oh, you know what would be nice if I can talk about queerness and colonialism in this bit about how white people, when they cannot like identify something as made by white people, they usually say that it's made by aliens. like the pyramids, you know?
Yeah, totally.
So,
exactly.
but it was actually just like a bunch of queer people from Africa.
Yeah.
A bunch of queer people from Africa. That's Afrofuturism.
Yeah.
It wasn't white people involved. Plus, if you look at millenarian traditions from white people, what they built, Stonehenge. Like, what's Stonehenge? It's just
compared to the pyramids. I mean,
you brought like what, 9 rocks and put them like. How many rocks are in the in the Mayan pyramids, for instance? You
made a circle. Congratulations, you made a 3D circle.
Yeah, we made Machu Picchu with all those feathers and shorts and stuff. Like, I don't know, clothes are barbaric. Like the feathers and stuff are not barbaric. Like I was taught. So yeah, I start thinking about that, and then it's like, all right, so if I'm on stage, I can talk about that, or. Parenthood also gave me like people talking to me about car seats has been morbid.
Yeah.
The way people talk about children or child rearing is traumatic. It's like, oh, you have to get that car seat that is going to save your baby from a brutal accident. All right. So if the accident is so brutal, am I going to survive, or is my kid going to require a lot of therapy? So why don't we get a car that is safe for all of us?
Yeah. Can I also have a car seat?
Can I be safe as well? Yeah. I mean, I want to be part of this boy's life, of this baby's life. I just don't want to
Yeah.
So those things give me that subject, but it's not every day. Like what I do every day for writing is I'm writing a graphic novel now.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So what I do is, because the formatting of the graphic novel is so easy, it's like an in-between of a screenplay and a novel. You're only writing images and dialogue, which is the same thing as writing a screenplay. So, and the problem with the screenplay, when you sit down and write a screenplay, is that your screenplay is going to be made if you want it. Somebody's going to be shooting your screenplay. Mm-hmm. So you have to think about production values and, not make it very complicated if you don't have like a Hollywood budget to make. With a graphic novel, you can go crazy. You can just write whatever the fuck you want. Like, I'm writing about a trans man who gets sprinkled with hot oil from like a fried street food in Colombia, and from that gets powers. That's it. That's his origin story.
Yeah,
he gets sprinkled with fat.
That's amazing.
And they get superpowers from that.
Yeah,
and the superpower that they get is that they can take any shape that they want. So they become like a moto taxi, which is the thing that they do to get money and put money into their family and stuff. But it becomes like an intrigue, and it ends with a monster fight, because I love kaiju monsters. So it's just like Pacific Rim, but in Barranquilla. Yeah.
So with the like writing the novel or like writing comedy, is it something where you're like, every morning or every evening I want to sit down and try to work, or do you just like, you for a week you don't do anything, and then all of a sudden it comes, and then you have 3 days of just like doing a shit ton? Or
I had a good pace up until last week, but then I had a moment when I was just like, I need to feed my imagination with more things.
Which is hard in this lockdown.
Because you run out. Yeah, you run out of conversations. You don't talk to people. And then what I have is an outlet with a good friend of mine who's a comedian as well, where I can just talk about creative things. And then I started doing this Sunday Slips thing as well, which I realized after the first performance, like, oh, this is not a medium for setup and punchline kind of comedy. This is ranty or is sketchy, or it can be sketchy and ranty. So I came up with something that I'm going to try on Sunday, which is horoscopes.
Yeah.
Because horoscopes are easy. You just have to say a name of a sign and just talk about shit. For instance, I'm just going to go like, Taurus, that minestrone soup from last weekend was simply marvelous. I mean, your decision to make your own tomato paste was a glorious one. 5 stars on job. Also, a boy wearing the color blue.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. Just, you can say anything and it can be taken as a horoscope. So, and you don't need like the reaction of the public. You can just talk about it, say your thing, and then move to the next one. Which is why I like panel comedy or like late night comedy, because regardless of the audience, you're doing a bit. So yeah, I try to keep myself busy writing every day. If it's not the novel, it's something else. And if I'm not writing, I'm daydreaming, which is writing as well. The thing is that sometimes it is either hard to access all memories because I'm processing something relatively new, or I'm like working through emotions or whatever is happening to me in that moment, and I give myself time. I don't put any deadlines on myself. I'm not good at that. I like to create on an environment of like, you don't have to create content, which is why I don't have a podcast, or I'm not pumping more visual content at the moment, because to keep audiences happy is a monumental task sometimes. It's like you have to put out more and more and more and more. And if you don't enjoy it, you're doing it to service not only to yourself, but to the people that are listening.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I understand that. Like, I think the thing for me with it is, I mean, well, one, I don't really have like an audience per se, you know. It's like I have a few people who watch, friends who watch my videos, and that's fun. I think for me, the idea of the deadline, and it does add stress, and it's something that I'm thinking like I need to pull a little back. But what I enjoy about the deadline is it forces me to just do something, and sometimes that means putting out shit that I'm like, I finish it and I think, well, this is shitty, but it's like I have to just move on to the next thing. And sometimes also that, I think, brings up something. It's like I'm just constantly churning the water, and a lot of times it's like shit, and then it's like, oh fuck, that one was a good one.
But the kind of content that you're putting out is mixed and it's great, and it's like it's a channel. You have a channel. You're not just putting out this format of interview. You're also putting out your sketches and your things, which is great, which is what I will do. Like, I wouldn't just like do interviews. I would do short interviews and then just do sketches. Sorry. Or something that people can see through and not wait for like an interactive nature, like a podcast, because a podcast is like you dropping in on a conversation.
Yeah.
And if it's interesting, you sit down and you watch it. And if it's not, you just can tune out.
Yeah.
But I'm certain that I am narcissistic enough to require the attention, not only the attention, but like an engagement of the whole brain, of different parts of the brain, like alluding to more than one emotion. And I just lack the finesse to do that. And, I have a few attempts. Like I have a format that I want to try, but I don't know. I can't bring myself to do it.
Yeah.
It's like I don't want to force myself to do it. And you have to edit. It's like, fuck, I don't like to edit.
Yeah.
I work in film. I have edited before. My bachelor work in the institute here in Germany. Oh my God. It was supposed to be not only edited, but work on in After Effects. And at the end, I was like, that wasn't joyful at all. I had joy in my heart whenever I was shooting it. And I'm that old school filmmaker that needs just to film it and then give it to somebody else. And that's just not the nature of the film right now. People edit their own material today.
Well, maybe we need to team up, because I find the shooting part is the part, like, I enjoy being on camera to some extent. Obviously, I mean, why else would I do this? But actually, my favorite part is the editing. I love seeing it come together. There's
it's the language,
and then finding, and also I love the finding where it's like, holy shit! If I just by taking out 3 frames at the end of that thing, it gives it this little extra hit of energy or something. Like, I don't know. I enjoy that somehow.
No, and the creative culture right now is not a culture of somebody that comes to your room where you're editing and tells you like, hey, what about we make it like Kids in the Hall and we make every swipe like a transition to the next one, or we make this or we make that, or we take like somebody that comes and talks about reference and language, or mainly just shooting the shit and saying like, what if instead of making the cut here, you make like a blend, or you make like a what is it called, like a mix between 2 images and a fade. That's what it's called. And people don't want to do that. People have their own ideas about their content. I mean, I got into the comedy business because I thought that I will be sharing my time with a bunch of intellectuals who were into creating things and shooting the shit around. The idea of a writer's room.
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind working under somebody else. And lately I've been sending out myself or presenting out myself as a writer to other comedians, and just telling them like, hey man, if you ever want to just sit down, shit around, I'm more than happy. I'm not like, it's going to be our idea or whatever. No, if you want to, like, if you know how to execute an idea and the idea is good enough, I can only be there just to like work as a wall to bounce things from, or just give you information, or just talk about my experience, and maybe you can use that as well. You know, that's what a writer's room is.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, like, you create something in an environment of more than one, but everybody is now into the solipsism of creating content on my own terms, whenever I want, with my own equipment, be my own boss.
Yeah. I mean, even the idea, like, even the idea of it as like content, right? You know, like actually the video I just did this week was like, I started making videos because I was like, oh, this is like something fun, kind of works another part of that comedy muscle. And then the lockdown happened and I was like, okay, I can kind of like focus on this more then. And then like slowly I find myself like watching all these videos about like how to like make good YouTube, like how to beat the algorithm. And I'm like, this is not what this is about. And but in that sketch I was talking about, I was like, one of the like dumb pieces of advice in it is like, everything is content. And I was like, your short film, that's not a short film, that's content. That painting you made, that's not art, that's content. And
tent, it's just tent. Hitting the tent. Yeah, I mean, that's why I like the early days of YouTube, when you had people that went viral by doing things that weren't like content.
Yeah.
It was just like somebody pointing a camera in one direction, or somebody doing like an 8-bit banana singing it's peanut butter jelly time.
Yeah.
And right now, some of my favorite content has nothing to do with comedy. It's just like cook shows, for instance. There's a cook show there's a cook channel that I like that is called Nino's House. And it's recipes made by a Korean person. Very sweet recipes. And there's only subtitles in English. And the subtitles sometimes tell stories parallel to the cooking. And the stories are just like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like, somebody is like body shaming the audience, or like, oh, I bought this egg jol separator because I love myself, unlike you, ha ha ha. And it's like, wow, that, or mukbang, which is like videos of people sitting down with like huge amounts of food in front of them, and they're just eating, and it's just like ASMR. They have a microphone, and then it's like you're sitting with somebody having dinner. You know?
Yeah.
Look, I'm talking about those because I got so inspired by all these videos that I wrote a treatment to do kind of an episode of a show that I want to make. And it will be something called Stream the Pain Away. And it's somebody with depression lying down watching YouTube, and the algorithm is showing you these videos like I shot with green screen, and it was two people in the lotus flower as if they were floating in space, and both of them are saying the same thing, which is like, hi, my name is da-da-da, and I am the person fucking your ex-girlfriend right now. You know, like this this meditation videos that you can find on YouTube. Yeah. And then there's there's like it's short episodes. It's short 3 minutes or 30 seconds episodes, and you put them together, you string them together under the guise of somebody watching YouTube. So what you make is like on the foreground you place the image of somebody watching YouTube at a very low opacity, and then you play whatever you recorded as if it was like a YouTube interface. Yeah. Something similar to YouTube that you can avoid getting sued over. And then at some point in the video, you have an interface coming in and asking you, are you still watching? And then you click yes, or the person who's watching clicks yes, and the interface asks, why? Yeah. It's just like how to apply makeup, or the makeup tutorial on how to hide your emotional scars. There's a mukbang, which is like the first date. I wanted to do a rating a date with Dragos, making Dragos do like a video rating. Yeah. The way he does it. Yeah. Like a comedy special rating. But then it was like, at the beginning you were talking about too many things at the same time. It sounds weird. Yeah. And stuff like somebody rating you on a date. That's something that I haven't seen. And I wanted to do a recipe video that was not a recipe, but the story of how I once went on a trip with a girlfriend, and I mentioned that we were going in the forest. I had given like a creepy I'm not coming back from this trip to the forest. I have given that back, and there was no way of bringing that energy away. So we spent like 2 hours in the forest. This person, was it a she? Oh no, it was a he. He walking like on that side, like 4 meters apart from me. And because I was the one that drove us there, I was like, should we drive by? It was like, yeah. So I wanted to tell that creepy story while I was cooking banana bread. So, you know, my fingernails and stuff. And I wanted to go from that to that story, which is the thing that I find fascinating about these videos. Just you can find so much content right now online that it's just like adding water to a huge pond. So...
Well, I think my camera's probably going to die here in a minute, so maybe we should wrap it up.
Oh my God, this was so much fun. We didn't talk about shit. We went through a lot of subjects. Sorry about that.
We can do another one anytime. I feel like I would do a whole nother episode just to talk more about the queer, non-monogamous. We could do a whole thing. But anyways, it was fucking fun, man.
It was great. Thank you for having me.
Anything that people should point toward, look for you?
Yeah, hit me up on Instagram at Karlmedy. It's just like comedy but with Karl on the front.
The link will be in the description below.
Right here.
Right there.
Right here.
But dude, this was really fun. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. And yeah, hit me up for the next one.
Yeah, for sure.